round overview, the counter plan in the case.
You said? Round over.
Yep. 3 on each.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
We both agree that housing and education impact the situation in the status quo. We saw housing, which will argue leads to school desegregation. It's an argument. It's about which method you think is better. Our counterplan has a distinct benefit preventing vouchers from coming into play, which is 100% turns their advantage, 100% turns the case, and they're absolutely conceding. They're making no link arguments and have a non-extended case add-on with no impact articulated, which means that any risk of the disad, even minus the word of the counterplan, means you vote negative. They have no answer to this disadvantage. I'll articulate the scenario once again. The affirmative will underestimate the ability of the conservatives to control the educational terrain. The post-plan passage of desegregation, the conservatives will be able to push through a measure in which to allow vouchers. The minorities will also push for this. This is Davis and Guthrie in '97, offering the 1NC shout, and the Appleman Perjoni evidence talking about how conservatives need to convince minorities to support vouchers in order to steal educational power away from these communities in the first place. This has a few negative impacts. First of all, it destroys the overall movement because people will say you had your one shot with the voucher to be able to lift yourself up from the situation. Now you're totally fucked under the 14th Amendment, which makes them disposable in the capitalist system, which is 100% impact terms of the case. Also leads to a commodification of people by saying we'll pay you off. Now be on your way. Also has the overwhelming movement of stopping the direction of the movement in order to solve racism, which turns back all their arguments. These are not conceded impact analysis. Don't allow them to do any new work in the two. All right, it wasn't in any of the prior previous speeches. The link debate. They have zero answer to this, absolutely saying an analytic no link. All our evidence has been how in Cleveland, in Kansas City, and in Milwaukee, the natural solution for desegregation efforts was to lead to a program of vouchers. Also, they have no answer to our link evidence, speaking to which the Republican forces, conservative forces, will combine with liberal forces in order to push for the voucher system. All specific to the way in which they implement their plan post segregation. They'll say the only way this makes sense is for us to do a system of vouchers in order to have the idea of choice. All our evidence is specific, on point on this issue. They say that it'll be struck down, but they concede our Rosen evidence, which says a majority of justices seem to agree that Cleveland's voucher program will be constitutional if low-income parents had a meaningful range of schools. This evidence talking about the Supreme Court, how in a world where their plan passes, this no longer becomes unconstitutional, which is unique for our link. It's unconstitutional now under the 14th Amendment because it puts people in different places and uniquely discriminates, but it becomes constitutional when their plan passes and says schools are now desegregated. These are all reasons why our link evidence will massively subsume this. They also have no uniqueness on the question of conservatives being able to control the schools and being able to manipulate their agenda to do what they want. Their last argument is that the international law, they send two flipping arguments. Don't let them blow this up in the two air. They say international law is key to function, and then the timer goes off. There's no articulation of an impact of this evidence and no extension of the evidence itself. And second, it can see my argument that because we do Supreme Court action on counterplay, Texas Supreme Court will end de facto and de jure segregation in housing. We'll still be able to capture all those ICCPR links. Also, they can see the Delahunty evidence. Their only answer is that evidence bad. This evidence says that U.S. law has to be distinct from international law in order to prevent it from being co-opted, and also that it will lead to modeling bad policies that lead to genocide. If they go for it, that is a straight impactor that they conceded coming out of the 1 hour to let him answer, or will articulate that solving racism is still the biggest impact of our counterplan. Look, the counterplay solves 100% of the case. We have comparative evidence that the Ken evidence says that until housing policies are fixed, educational and economic benefits for blacks will remain discriminatory. So even if the plan solves in the educational realm, argues that until the larger picture of housing discrimination is solved, it won't be able to happen. That's our Ken evidence. And our Levy evidence says that property tax makes school segregation inevitable. Also, all of our Powell evidence says that the court has repeatedly ignored the housing segregation has had on education. The plan will be a step in the wrong direction, and ultimately the housing counterplan they haven't considered that says will eventually lead to an integration of communities, which will be able to solve back the entirety of the impact. There's a built-in net benefit to doing the counterplan alone, as opposed to both the plan and the counterplan. First is the disadvantage segregated, and second is all those arguments about why housing segregation is the key focus, not the educational system. They have no evidence on this question. Now, it's not abuse of freedom because they see all our arguments about why one text is key and that railroad standard is arbitrary, and it's not a railroad standard function. There's no reason why competing through Medicine is bad. Functional competition is best for education, and the plan isn't best alone. The term ensures that, and all their evidence is specific to changing housing law. It's not my fault. You don't have an answer to a housing counterplan on Milliken, which is the largest counterplan on the topic area. We're not in a constitutional amendment, which they keep articulating. Read our counterplan text. We have the United States Supreme Court rule that to de facto segregation and have states pass all these laws. They're making the wrong theory arguments. It's not an abuse of fairness. They're not making any those arguments. We don't feed out that people move. We only change the conditions that allow them to move, which is what a counterplan should be. They're competitive. There's no reason why they should be allowed to do this. Now, drop down to the bottom, they extend all these arguments and with no warrants that they maintain school education. Look, our evidence is on-point comparative that changing housing patterns will lead to a change in school systems. Their party evidence is about the status quo that restricted housing laws are key to segregation. The Russell evidence only says that integration would foster a sort of content. Housing CP does that as well. Case. Listen, all their arguments. They don't solve for a couple reasons. First, teachers will follow the law, extend the Smith 95 evidence, and that parents will instruct construction measures that tomorrow in 2000. Just because it's happening in status quo doesn't mean they can't make it worse. We capture all their Supreme Court solid charges because we use the Supreme Court actors, making schools to focus on race and not reform the plan undermine the quality of education that Smith 95.
All the evidence they reference on like.
Can I get all the editor reference?